Hi guys, how are you doing? So this week we had a lot of interesting games and tournaments happen, but one of my favorite ones was the things that was happening in well, kind of like last year, Leon, around these times. So I'm gonna do that instead of this week's game. So last year, this week's game. My problem is, like, whenever I'm trying to do a game and I go look at it, they're like everybody, like, so like everybody right now, every tournament is online, so everybody is going and looking at the games and analyzing it, and you can find like 5 different channels and broadcasters who are all like at the same time analyzing the game. So I tried. I'll do this week's game, this first of the July week's game, but from last year, so why not? All right, so I wanted to show this game that is actually very interesting. I'm a big fan of Ivanchuk, so I like his games, I like his style. He's a very, very talented chess player. So let's jump in. This is the position that I wanted to, nope, this is not the position, this is the game that I wanted to get to. And so I also want to ask, who here plays this type of opening with white? Like the knight f3, then like d4, just like the d4 style opening. Because these are a lot of interesting ideas that you guys could follow. For me, I don't play this as black. Like, I play d4, the Nimzo Indian, Grunfeld, King's Indian, like a whole mix of those, but not d5 anymore. So I don't really get into the Queen's Gambit, declined or accepted. So yeah, just wanted to get some ideas on basically what's popping. All right, so this is a very interesting idea. And so after Queen a4, some of the moves that could be that you could think about are maybe Bishop d7, maybe Knight c6, but c6, b5 is one of the oldest ideas in the book. And I think this is something that I've actually played too with black, because it can't transpose from Nimzo Indian too. All right, so right now there are like Queen b3s, I think there's Queen d3, and there are other lines that if the knight is back on b1 and the pawn is on g3, there's Queen c2, similar positions. So there's a lot of similarities among these positions. So now let's say Queen goes to b3 and Knight d7 makes sense, right? You want to develop g3. Now black plays this Bishop b7, and yes, King Lear, you're correct. This is a semi-Slav. Well, kind of, yeah, it could have been with like Bishop g5, h6 stuff. So yeah, now white goes Bishop g2, normal stuff, still normally developing. So first question, black to move, what do you think black should play right now? So black to move, or if you were black, what would you want to do? Exactly, thank you. a6. So a6 has a very interesting idea, because, well, after a6, we are just protecting b5 and kind of preparing for c5, right? All right, so after a6, with the idea c5. Now, here Ivanchuk played Knight e5, which is also a just normal great idea. Also stopping c5, right? Also putting more pressure on the c6 pawn. So after Knight e5, Queen c8 makes sense, right? Now you want to play c5. White castles, black plays c5, and now what do you think white should play? Do you think we should take on b7? Do you think we should take on d7? Do you think we should just let it be? I think I also forgot to say who was black. This game was played between Ivanchuk and I think it was Nihal Sarin. Yeah, Nihal Sarin. And this was last year in Leon Masters. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Have a good timing, Ben. And the interesting thing is that the same tournament, the Leon Masters, is going to happen again starting July 10th. So basically tomorrow. Yeah, so that's another interesting thing that kind of like overlaps and good stuff. So 97 is an interesting idea. And 97, I think, was actually a novelty from my understanding. Yeah, so 97 is something that never has really been played before, or at least in higher level. So bishop b7 is something that previously was played, and bishop b7 take. Now we can take over there, d5, c4, and this was a game between Sargsyan and Gelfand. I'm also a big fan of Gelfand. He's a great chess player. I really enjoyed his books. Also the recipes at the end of the books. I gave it a fair try. So this was a game that happened in this position is what happened in that game too, Sargsyan and Gelfand. But we are looking for this novelty here of knight takes d7. So knight d7, queen has to take, right? Now bishop takes take, we take on c5, and this is a very interesting position. Now we could do this bishop g5, and now we can kind of understand why this was the idea of the semi-Slav, then the move 5 bishop g5. So yeah, this is something that it's worth looking at. All right, so I also, so let's say Castellan, I want to leave you in this position and ask you what should whites do. So while you guys are thinking, I also want to kind of talk about something and get some opinions. So if like a move such as knight, the move that we just saw, knight takes d7, which was a novelty, let's say, and like a lower rated player, much lower rated players play it, but not because it's preparation, just because it looks good. And so now, does that mean that the knight d7 that this super grandmaster Ivanchuk played, is it not a novelty anymore, or does it mean that it's just because someone else, someone much lower level played it? So that's something that I've been debating with some of my chess friends about. Just because someone else played it but they didn't really know what they were doing, does it mean this is not a novelty anymore? So yeah, here's some food for thoughts to sit and debate about. Alright, so now white to move. What do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to eat anything, exchange anything, develop anything, push some pawns? I think those would I think those are the options basically. Whoa, the chat is so quiet right now. Alright, we want to grab the open D file. Alright, so thank you for your ideas about this novelty debate. Yeah, one of the points of views was like when someone like figures out finds a new land, it doesn't matter if they were looking for it, or if they actually like just found it by accident. So that was one of the things that was in the debate, like in favor of whoever finds it first. I guess that's the finders keepers rule. Anyways, so we're talking about some of the ideas that are in the chat are a4, oops, not that one yet, rook d1, or thank you, Sai, but legal moves. Let's talk about legal moves. All right, so I think those are interesting ideas, but why isn't anybody talking about bishop takes f6? Bishop takes f6 is a great idea. Thank you. Yeah, I just got someone saying it. Great. because bishop takes f6, you gotta take it back, right? And now this pawn structure is beginning to get a little smelly. Now we play this rook d1. Now, white to move, what do you want to do? Do you want to exchange those rooks? Do you want to, well, maybe play a4? A4 was like a trick question. Sorry, I meant to trick you. A4 is doable, but not really ideal because of b4. And the problem is like, well, now what do you want to do with your knight? If you go to a2, that's one sad knight. If you play something like e3 and ignore the fact that your knight is under attack, then queen can come to f3. Whoa, there we go. So yes, I am glad so many people are falling for my little trap and going for a4. A4 is not the best move. A4 isn't, I mean, it's a doable move. It's not like it's a blunder, but the a4 would give so much opportunity to your opponent. So whoever was thinking about taking over the d file, that's the right idea. Take rook d1. That's the best way to go about it. Now, if they take, you just take dominance of this file. But if they don't take, you can also just chill. Now you brought the tension. Now you can wait and see who breaks first, basically. So now, what's black's biggest threat? f2, right? So let's play e3 and stop this threat. So now white just played e3, black to move. What do you think black should do? Do you see any way for black to advance his position? Any ideas? Any threats? It is black to move. We just played e3. So for those of you who are not familiar with how chess.com board works, if there is this highlight, it means we just did the move. So we can't play knight e4. Well, I'm not saying this is a promising position for white, but it's a very playable position for both sides. Right now, I think it's just a fight. You're just fighting to see who has more skills to transform this position to a promising position. So e3, I see a lot of ideas with b4. Those are interesting ideas, but you have something much more interesting that no one has mentioned so far. King g7 is doable, yeah, but something even a little bit stronger. So I'm not the biggest fan of e5, just because if you play e5, d5 square is completely, well, ready for the knight. Whoops, not like that, no. Alright, there's knight d5 possible, there's rook d5 possible, and then queen d1. So, sorry, when I said the d5 square is ready for a knight, just any piece. So, alright, I did see a f5 in chat, so I'm going to assume that it's well thought. So f5, now, f5, now, what do you want to do? Let's say after this f5, white's to move, what do you want to do? Do you want to exchange these rooks? Do you want to relocate the knight somewhere better? What? Ah, not that. Alright, so f5, white to move. King g2, King g2 doesn't make much sense to me. What if King g2, I just give you check, and you have to play King g1 again? I mean, it's not like the worst thing that you could do, but it doesn't make sense. Just rook d7 and I'm just holding. Yep, knight e2 to f4. Yeah, that's a good idea. Knight e2. Now, let's say after knight e2, black plays something like bishop e7. What I was thinking about was maybe bishop d6 to avoid exchanging rooks. But then there's like a4, b4, queen c4. Yeah, it's not the easiest position to play. I agree with you guys. All right, so bishop e7. Now white to move. What should you do? Should you exchange those rooks and try your chances in the endgame with like the queen and bishop, queen and bishop versus queen and knight? I think rook d3 is also an interesting idea. Yeah, because you just want to play queen d1. Whoops, where's the rest of my hair? No, that's the knight move. There we go. Yeah, I think this is an interesting idea to play and get the queen behind the rook. But what if just like queen goes to c7? Queen d1. Now just take. Can I just exchange queens? So another question, do you think right now moves such as queen d6 is better for white or black? I think it's about equal, honestly. So it's not really as easy. It's not that easy to just say, yeah, here is white's way better just after exchanging queens or not. So I think rook d3 is a valid point, but in the game rook d8 was played. Take, queen c2. So basically I think the idea is you have this file, I'm gonna have this file for now. I think that's just the idea for right now. And it's a good file to have. You can easily have an eye in the king side and queen side, and you can't really do much in the king side right now anyways, so you might as well keep your focus on the queen side. Alright, so queen c2, bishop f6, not b4. I think b4, if you're telling me for white, b4 right now would be a little too hasty. You never know when you actually need these pawns, so something like b3 would make a little bit more sense, just thinking about future. And after b3, now in the game black played bishop e5. So now what do you think white should do? Do you see any interesting maneuvers or ideas for white? Sure. What do you think white should do? e4, I don't know if e4 is the best idea, just because when you play e4, well, what if take? Nah, I was thinking about queen d5, but no, this is just a. So okay, let me try and explain something. Even though this position looks very boring and very little to do, little maneuvering to do, little ideas to have, you still have to play it tricky. If you play e4, take, queen d5, you might as well just offer a draw right now. So if you're playing and if you're fighting, I think it's a better idea to keep the chances for your opponent to make a mistake. So yes, knight c1 would be more interesting, getting the knight off to d3. And now, so in the game right now, Ivanchuk played h4. Do you think that's a good move? If no, then why? Yeah, that's a good idea. This knight versus this bishop, the kind of like tied up. This pawn could be weak. If this pawn gets up to h6, that's ideal. What else? There's a question, why not b4? I think b4, the thing is a check. If king g7, well, I'll just pick that up. But if you play like bishop f8, can I just take b4? Or I can pick this up, or that. So the idea of h4 was not just to play this queen c8, but that's also a big part of it. So h4, let's say black just plays, I'm just going to play a weird move. Bishop a3. Now, do you think queen c8 is possible? Well, not anymore, because bishop f8 and you can't take that because d3 is falling. But what I was trying to say was if king goes to g7. Now actually it's getting interesting. Now we b4, this guy. So I was just showing you something like if black plays just a move and nothing that accurate, white still has a lot of traps on the position. So yeah, exactly. h4 also is like a prophylaxis move. So black actually in the game played h5. I'm not gonna say best move because it's not the best move. It's just like a doable move. Black could play like a5. Black could play king g7. I think black would even consider playing e5. Okay, maybe hold on, not right now because there's check and take. Oops. But when there's not check and take, when there's like, let's say king g7. Now king g7. Let's say we also play like king f1. Now e5. No more check and take. So I think this is an interesting position for black right now. So let's go back. h4, h5. Now h5 wasn't the most accurate move. Anyone want to take a swing at it and tell me why it's not the most accurate move? I don't think it's about the king. I think the way we could look at it is just like, no, so h5 is not a bad move, it's just not the most accurate. Like something like king g7 with the idea e5 would be more accurate, but we didn't do that now. And so now white can actually play something just like king f1. So another idea that we played h4 was to free this pawn so there won't be like some check and take, and we could try and get the king and a little closer to protect the knight, so we free the queen. That was a long sentence. So does that make sense? We played this h4 to free this king from having to protect the pawn. So when this pawn is in a good place, we bring the king, come defend this guy, and we free the queen from having to defend it. So far so good? Alright. So my point is that thanks. So my point is that white has like this clear plan, whereas something like h5 doesn't really go with the flow of the game. So in the game, black played just king g7, king e2, and here we got this interesting e5 happen finally. Now white just played queen c3, simple ideas, just we don't really want to have this e4 or f4 happen, so let's just stop it. So queen c3, king h7. In the game, white played knight e1. I think the idea is pretty simple. You just want to keep keep your position stable and see if black will make a mistake. I think this is something that psychologically happens a lot to like when there's a huge age difference. Like this, Ivanchuk was playing Nihal Sarin. Nihal Sarin is a teenager. Ivanchuk is, well, not a teenager. So I think that's a big thing that I think here also Ivanchuk was testing Nihal Sarin's patience, to see how patient this kid is, how can he manage under a lot of pressure, and having this so many pawns that are kind of just wobbly. I've had stuff like this and it's not really pleasant, so it is understandable to make a mistake. So I've said all of these because I'm kind of laying the ground to say that here black made a mistake. But what do you think is the best move for black? So black to move, what do you think is the best move? No, e4. E4. I understand e4, but e4 is not really. All right, let me ask you guys to do this. If you're just giving me a move for black, make sure to at least give me what you think white will respond. So I'm seeing a lot of e4s, f4s, b4s. Make sure to tell me what should white do. Like e4, what do you think is the most annoying move that white can play? Maybe knight c2, maybe knight g2, who knows? So just tell me which one. Alright, thank you, Mohammed. e4, yeah, I think e4, knight c2 is reasonable. E4, I think also maybe queen d4. Or maybe just knight c2 first. And then knight can go to d4. Yeah, I think e4 is interesting, but just knight kind of just gets up there. So I've seen, alright, thank you for sharing the idea with b4. Yeah, b4, you're right. Queen d3 is the best move. Take. And now, actually, this is a better endgame for white because the king is way too close and we are just gonna start attacking all these pawns. So queen d3 also, you kind of have to take it because if you don't, then you're losing this pawn or this pawn. So let's go back. So b4, not a good move. e4 is possible, but not really. And I just said it, b4, queen d3, attacking all the pawns, and the endgame after the queens are exchanged is better for white. So right now, black to move. We've talked about e4, it's okay move. b4, it's a not okay move. We are going to talk about f4 too, but I was kind of hoping someone would say the best move or like one of the good moves before we look into what happened in the game. So in the game, f4 happened, and f4 gives white a lot of chances. Not because of g takes f4, because of queen c2 check. So I want to show you the bishop c5 idea too. Bishop c5 is one of those moves that's also holding. Because now what are you going to do with your knight? If knight d3, alright, I'll just play bishop d6. If you play knight c2, well, alright, I will just can I just play bishop e7? Or can I now play e4? Yeah, I think these are just, very normal moves. Alright, so f4 was played, queen c2. King g7, now white to move. How can white improve the position? Black just made a mistake. We used this mistake. Now how? How can we improve it? How can we keep using this mistake? What did the move f4 change? The move f4 gave us the diagonal of h7 b1. So how can we use that? Also, I just remembered I had I had some games, but one game that comes to my mind right away about when I broke under pressure to higher and older opponents, higher rated older opponents, and I might show that later on, not today, but another time. So yeah, it was a sad game for me. I was actually thinking about showing that today before this class, but yeah, we'll talk about the psychological pressures later on as well. Alright, so yes, queen f5, thank you for everybody who participated. And yes, queen f5 is the best idea because after queen f5, you are attacking so many things. You are attacking this poor h5, you're attacking potential taking on here. And what should black do? I think maybe queen e6 might be the best chance. maybe, but what if I just take and now just e4? Now this is a weak pawn, just king up, knight here, bye-bye pawn. If you take, I take back, and now this is a bad bishop because this bishop always has to stay here. We can just even put this knight here. Also, there is pawn majority. So yeah, this would be also a sad endgame for black. So here, after queen f5, take happened in the game. We take back, and here, bishop b4. Some ideas, right? Now black has some ideas with potential queen d2s. All right. White to move, what should we do? You want to ignore this queen d2 idea and give bunch of checks? Or do you want to close up with maybe knight d3 or like knight f3? I like the idea knight f3 more, because if knight d3 there could be some queen g2s, potentially. And then take on g3. Who is black? Nihal Sarin. Or Sarin. Alright. So knight f3 is the best choice to go for. And after knight f3, we are attacking e5 and h5. So actually in the game, finally, I saw there was some f6 in the chat, and finally f6 happened. So now, can you guys find the best move for white? And don't forget, you give me a move for white, don't forget to give something for black too. Chess is a two-way game. Can't expect to make a move and your opponent doesn't make a move. All right. All right, I see an idea with g4. I think that's a cool idea. G4 maybe. Yeah. So I don't like e4 be easy because e4 is kind of the problem with e4. Oh, come on. e4 is that queen can just go to c5, and then your king is way exposed right now. And the next move, queen c2 can come. This bishop becomes kind of like monster. We can go in more depth if you want to, but it's kind of clear. E4 is kind of allowing opponent to slip away. So g4 is the best move. The thing is, well, if take, now we just take with the queen, and depending on where the king goes, like if you play king f5, well, I mean, you're just losing this, right? Didn't really depend on where the king goes. I was thinking if there's any mate, but I was kind of thinking about h5, but that's kind of a, I mean, this is possible too, but we can just eat the piece. So here, after g4, in the game, Nihal just played queen f7, I think. Yeah, queen f7, and now we just pick up a pawn. So in this position now, Ivanchuk is much better, right? We just have to, he just have to play kind of really accurate and not really, you know, mess it up. So, taking on h5, in the game he went with bishop e7. I think, I mean, bishop c3 is also doable, but if bishop c3, just, I mean, knight h2 and maybe just knight g4 and h6 is what's happening. So, take bishop e7. What white to move, what to do? Yep, knight h2. you're just going to to g4, and that should be pretty plenty. So knight h2, king h8, knight g4, also going after this little guy. After queen d5, now the game is kind of starting to wrap up. So queen d5, what do you think white should do? What do you think is white's best move? Yeah, alright, I see a lot of nice ideas, and h6 is just the simplest way to win, because after h6, now black can't really do anything. Knight f6 is interesting, but what if queen just goes to f7? You kind of have to give this check, only move to keep the knight, and now the knight has to move away, maybe knight there, king h7, maybe another check, king h6. Now it just feels like it's kind of running away, and now h5 is falling, h4 is weak. Yeah, I don't like this. The whole idea that we've had so far, the idea was to put pressure, and we don't really want to lose that pressure just because right now it's, well, kind of knight f6 would allow black to kind of breathe a little. Alright, so h6 is the best idea. Queen g2 check, knight f2 cover up. And here he played queen d5, which was a bad move. But I mean, honestly, here like white is much better, and just this is also much better. But he went for queen d5. So now, can you guys find the best move for white right now? Queen g6 is interesting, but you have something stronger. h7 also doable, but not. I mean, honestly, hold on. Queen h6, queen g6 is also, I think, best one, just going after mate. And if bishop there, just queen g6, queen f6. Yeah, I think this was actually much stronger. But another move that could be played is h5. And the idea of h5 is pretty simple. h5, I want to be able to, well, push the pawn, honestly. And h5, now next move I do is queen g6, but I think queen g6 earlier was just as good. So, I mean, I don't really see why h5 first. I think it was just more pressure. Bishop f8, h7, now going after g8, now knight g4, going after this one. I think one of the big things about having h4 was if bishop g7, now just h6. So this was the first game that I wanted to show you. I was kind of hoping it would run a little faster, so I would have more time on the next game. But it's okay, we still have time to go over next game too, but I just might have to do it a little bit faster. Alright, let me switch the boards real fast. This is another game of Ivanchuk too, so you can see that I'm a fan. But in this game, well, not surprisingly, this game was between Ivanchuk and the Iranian Maghsoodloo, Parham. I know him when he was a kid, so I don't really, I'm not really biased. It was just really a good game. So, I'm gonna kind of go a little too fast on this part, the opening part, so we have more time to focus on the middle game, because the middle game was actually really beautiful. So, this was in the same tournament. I think it was the last round, or I think it was the last round. but I might be wrong, so feel free to correct me. I take criticism quite well, more than I should. Alright, so this is just a classic Rauzer game. Everything going well. Actually, I had a game like this today in the Twitch channel. F4 is actually the way most people play. Like, I actually played F4 too. But I kind of wanted to... he kind of went with F3 and went about it this way. So this is a good idea. White's doing good, black's doing good. Rauzer is a very sharp opening. So after this position, we finally reached one of the critical positions that there could be h4, there could be bishop e3, but Parham Ivanchuk played king b1. So after king b1, finally we have opposite side. Whoa, castle, opposite colored castle. That would be interesting, huh? Alright, so in this position, bishop e3 is an interesting move. I think bishop e3 was actually a really interesting move. Well, there's this thing like knight e4s could be coming up eventually, so that could be one reason. But after short castle, this doesn't really like strike me as knight e4 style. So after h4, I think h4 is more common, honestly, because you want to start attacking on the king side, and like h4, b5, that's like the common style. But bishop e3, I understand bishop e3 as well. You're just protecting your bishop a little bit better before you start attacking. So bishop e3, b5, now we push g4. Take, bishop c6. And another idea to think about is when to put the rook on c8. So that's one of the big questions that I also kind of have to understand better for myself, is when to actually put these rooks to c8 and b8, when to start pushing these pawns. Because I was thinking, if we can just start playing b4 now, and if the knight goes to e2, maybe let's get the queen to a5, maybe let's bring the other rook to c8 or b8. That's kind of that was kind of what I was thinking about. But bishop c6 also does make perfect sense. Paralyzes the ideas with f4, has a good eye on the center. So in the game after bishop c6, g5, knight d7, so far everything logical. You attack my king side, I attack your queen side. Well, basically I attack my king, I attack your king. And right now, black played d5. Do you think d5 is a good move? D5 is an okay move, but it's not... Yeah, exactly. A little premature. Thank you. So the problem with d5 is e5, and it's kind of like starts closing the center, so you're very committed to the attack now. I think that's kind of what scared me a little. Like, if take... Alright, taking is good. I take with the bishop. My bishop is very strong. Looking after that a2, the pawn on b4 kicked the knight away, so I kind of understand this and I like this idea. But e5 was the move that kind of I wasn't really the biggest fan of. So e5, a5. And finally, oh, I was right, Leon Master. There we go. So e5, a5, and now after a move such as white plays f4, I'm gonna ask you guys, what do you think black should do? Alright, I'm getting a lot of b3s, some f5s. Whoa. Alright, some a4s. Yeah, a4 is, sorry. Hold on, I wanted to talk. Yeah, a4 is actually a doable move. But a4, I'm a little worried about like something like g6 right away. Or maybe h5 then g6. It kind of feels like white's doing a little bit faster than black is. So that's what worries me. And there were some other suggestions about knight f4, but after knight f4, black could simply play something like knight c5 again. Probably, maybe, if knight f4. Hopefully knight c5. No, knight c5 doesn't work anymore, sorry, because h5, and this is a little too fast. I can't really take over here because of there. So yeah, knight c5 is a bad move. Don't do knight c5. But we could simply play potentially just a4 now, because this knight is on f4 and not protecting this, so h5 is not as scary. Now this is falling. Alright, let's go back to f4, and now we can try playing knight c5 finally. So the idea of knight c5 is pretty simple. Again, a4 is possible, but knight c5 kind of makes a little bit more sense, because you are heading for here, e4, or maybe a4, but e4 maybe a little bit more, maybe towards e4. So in the game, Ivanchuk played queen e3, we got this knight e4, and finally white tries to develop this bishop. I mean, ideally I want this bishop to be like d3, but I mean, well, you can't always get what you want, so bishop h3. Something like knight g3 makes a lot of sense to me too, because if knight g3, you play something like take, now it's actually good. Just queen takes, the queen is behind the pawns, and this pawn march is very strong. So if you don't take, you could play something like a4 and now h5. This still makes more sense to me, knight g3, than maybe bishop h3. But bishop h3 is also a threat with f5. So bishop h3. Now finally, bishop d7. The idea of bishop d7 is to simply stop this f5, and you're trying to stop your opponent's attack while promoting your own, and that is exactly what white is doing too. Now white plays bishop g2. So now again the rook is open, attacking e4 and threatening to pick up a pawn. So white just played bishop g2, black to move. What do you think you should do with black? Knight c5, not sure. Knight c5 is a kind of a blunder. Just take it. Or so bishop back to c6, not really, we still want to fight. a4, no, because you still have to develop your queen and your rook, or at least your queen before. Oh, thank you, Beltran, you're right, queen c7. We kind of need to get the queen out before we can start pushing anymore. So let's say we encounter this take. Taking on e4 now is a blunder because of bishop c6, but we can play knight g3 to go after e4, right? So knight g3. Now black can simply try and continue developing with rook c8, going after c2, rook h2, threatening to take queen takes e4. Finally a4, knight takes e4. Now black to move. What do you think we should do with these pawns? All of your pieces seem to be ready to break through and make some final attack, right? But how? Yes, exactly. Whoa, no, we gave up the ending. No, you guys didn't see it. Ah, man. It's the one thing I do wrong with chess.com is when I actually misclick. Oh, man. Alright, let's go back. I'm a little, my enthusiasm level just went. Alright, you are correct about b3. Alright, well, b3, in the game Ivanchuk took c takes b3, but if not, bishop c3 was the like a more solid option. Bishop c3 holds everything together. Now if you take on a2, I just play king a1. a3, now b3, kind of everything gets stuck together. If you take on bishop c3, if you take like there, I just take it back with the rook. And that's also white's holding well. So it's alright, so most of the time it's highly unlikely that taking back the pawn that's attacking you, like this b3 pawns, this g6 pawns, it's most of the times it's not a good idea. So just have that in mind and try not to you know, make your opponent's life much easier. So after b3, cb3, we take back. Now this is a serious threat. We're also taking with the rook, right? So after a takes b3, a3 is pretty much the only move to do, right? So now my question to you is, how can black try and push a little bit more in this position? Probably have to throw in a queen somewhere, bring a bishop somewhere. You gotta bring stuff, right? Bishop b4, maybe a little too early. Rook a3, oh boy. No. Way too early for stuff like that. Bishop c6 is the best move. Going after this knight, putting the bishop on d5. This is a good pawn. You don't want to, I mean, you don't necessarily want to give it up. You could put you could put a bishop there to look after it. Alright. Bishop c6. So, bishop c6, rook d2. Now, finally, we play this rook a4. Rook a4 is also a great move. One thing I wanted to mention is if h5, we can just take on e4. And if take back, then rook a4, also pinning this guy. So, rook d2, rook a4. Now in the game, white played knight c3. You can already see white's attack is kind of stopped because it has to bring pieces to defend his king, right? So knight c3, black to move, what should we do? We should save this rook somehow, right? So where do you think is the best square to go? Good job, rook c4. Rook c4 is pretty strong. You are, well, bringing it to the open file, and you're also threatening to have some bishop e4s happen eventually. So in the game, white played f5, which was a mistake, because just take, and now there's even more support for bishop e4. e6, finally bishop e4. You can't take it because of, well, rook c1 and oops, mate. And in the game, white just, after bishop e4, white just played king a1. Now, this is a super strong diagonal that black has, and should already be giving you some stuff to want to do to this king. So what do you want to do to this king? Ideally, you want to be able to stack something on a3. Yeah, exactly. So in the game, first of all, Parham took on e6 because, well, this is an annoying pawn, and also you don't really want to give your opponent some chances to try and run away. But anyway, something like queen a5 is also just as good. So we take this guy, And this was like a desperate try, honestly, because yes, it is possible to take and rook d7 and just play like rook c3. This is also winning. Rook c7, rook c7. This is also again winning. But you don't really need to do this kind of stuff. You can just after bishop g7, and you can ignore it and play queen a5. Now you want to play bishop a3, right? So in the game after bishop f6, we finally did this take on a3, and now this is super winning. Let's say rook d8. Someone tell me how the last move of the game. We got this, rook d8. What should black do? Black to move, you're under check, but also keep in mind that there's a weak king over there. Yep, bishop f8. You start setting up for the next game while giving your opponent check and kind of forced mate. And yeah, this was one of those beautiful games. I really like this game. It was kind of a very interesting game anyways. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed 2 of this week's game from last year. And hopefully by next week we'll have something a little bit more up to date. Yeah, the Leon again, but everybody else will be doing it anyways, so good luck for me. And alright, this was fun. I hope you guys learned a lot from it, and have a good rest of your night.